Hey y'all, it's Moody Strategy here, and today we are going to be making a tier list for Starter Little Cup. Every single starter and nothing else in Little Cup rules otherwise. Who would be the outstanding Pokemon, and who would not be so outstanding? We're about to dive into that, so let's go. Alright, so first up, we have Squirtle, one of the Gen 1 starters, and even in just regular old Sun and Moon Little Cup, we have a diverse move pools, including support moves such as Fake Out and Rapid Spin. However, its lackluster stats aren't the best. However, since its Rapid Spin utility, I'm tempted to say that there aren't many Pokemon in this sort of theoretical format that would get any kind of entry hazards. In fact, the only ones that would possibly get it are grass types. But which just makes Squirtle not really that much of a threat in LC in the case of just starters. And for that reason, sadly, we have to put it in D tier. D tier. R.I.P. Squirtle. Next up, we have Charmander. Once again, the Gen 1 is deceiving in what it looks like to be good. It's really not all that good. However, in this case, there aren't many other fire types. There's only, as opposed to the few dozen others in regular Little Cup. In this case, there's only 7 others, or 6 others, since we're excluding the Galar legendary Galar starters. Words! Oh my god! And its Life Orb set has Dragon Dance, Flare Blitz, either HP Grass, but we're probably going with Brick Break here to. Actually, no, HP Grass would screw with the water types, and that's all you need in this format, is a way to mess up your weaknesses, which Thunder Punch also does. So Charmander, despite its lack of real results in regular old Little Cup, I think would do passably in this theoretical starter format. So, and for that, we're giving it, if we can figure out how to scroll, and for that, we'll give it B tier. Not going to be outstanding, but also going to be terrible. Next up we have Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur is the grass type from Gen 1, and unlike its other 2 Gen 1 counterparts, it actually has some pretty sweet stuff going for it. It's got sweeping abilities, it's got all sorts of chlorophyll shenanigans you can do if you can set up sun, and it's got that extra poison typing, which is very, very good, because it gives it a little bit of a edge if you throw in a poison type move like Sludge Bomb against fellow grass types. So unlike most of these starters that only have one of the starter types that they're strong against, Bulbasaur's got 2. And for that, I think it would be a pretty good threat in starter LC. However, at the same time, a lot of the threats are going to be fire types. So, just for that reason, I'm not sure whether to give it A or B tier. I feel as if it's slightly better than Charmander, though, so I'll give it A tier. And we're on to Gen 2. Cindaquil is up next with a cool Choice Scarf idea, but it's got not that great special attack. So, and most fire moves of this Pokemon are, well, special. Eruption, HP Grass, Fire Blast, all this stuff is special moves. So, even with the addition of Choice Scarf, it's just not that great as a actual sweeper. It could do some things in the right team, but C tier is where I'm putting Cindaquil. And after that, we're going up to Totodile, the water type of Gen 2. And it's got Sheer Force, which is already a huge knock in its favor, with Eviolite or Life Orb as its item. You can either go the full Glass Cannon route with Life Orb, or you can add a little bulk with Eviolite. And this Dragon Dance set, once again, Ice Punch does screw with Grass types, since it's an Ice type move. And most of the checks to Totodile, save for, I guess, maybe Bulbasaur, just can't really take a Dragon Dance boosted Ice Punch unless they're fully defensive, which is not going to be that big a thing, I think, if this were a format. So, for that, I think we put Totodile right up there with Charmander in B tier. Maybe even A tier with Bulbasaur. Yeah, it goes in A tier, because it's a pretty fine sweeper, actually. And it checks Bulbasaur, too, to an extent, because of its Ice Punch and the ability to just smack Bulbasaur hard with a move it's weak to. And next we have Chigorita, who is our Grass type for Gen 2. It is definitely going to be a more defensive Pokemon because of those epic defensive stats of 65 apiece, and 45 HP in Little Cup isn't anything to sneeze at either. However, even in regular Little Cup, it is just outclassed by Jaspin. So, in a format that has less options and still has Jaspin, sadly Chigorita's just outclassed. And it's not a bad Pokemon by any means, but you have better options. For that, I'm going to give it C tier. And we're on to Gen 3 with Mudkip. And sadly, its moves aren't great, its speed is kind of bad, and its most powerful move is Superpower, which isn't honestly all that great with the fact that even on its above average stats, even its attack of 70, which is actually really good for a Pokemon in LC, the rest of its stats are no higher than 50. In fact, its speed is 40, which is not that great. It does get Ice Beam, so that's a tick in its favor. But other than that, I just don't really see how much use it could be. For that, we're going to put it with Squirtle down in D tier. It just isn't that good. Doesn't really have anything. Next up, we got Torchic, the fire type of 3. And Speed Boost is an amazing ability, especially with Protect. This should just be common knowledge. You can Protect first turn, get a speed boost off, which will make you faster than just about everything else. And from there, you can just go on and sweep with one of your moves. In this case, either Fire Blast or HP Grass, or if you want to forgo Substitute, even Overheat would work. Although, I personally prefer Substitute because, once again, more turns to set up Speed Boost in case that first Protect doesn't get you anything too good. Torchic does carve out a niche for itself, but at the same time, if you look at its stats, pretty frail on the physical side and average on the special side as far as defense goes, and it's kind of a glass cannon, especially against more physical opponents such as Scorbunny or Totodile. But when all said and done, it's a very decent Pokemon, B tier. If we can drag it to B tier, that is. Alright. On to our third Pokemon of Gen 3, Trico. And Trico is actually a pretty good, both as a mixed attacker, because it's special attack of 65, and a sort of sword stance sweeper as well, since you got a lot of good moves on this guy. Rock Slide if you want to take out fire types, or Acrobatics if you want that extra oomph after berry juice. Bullet Seed's just generally a good physical move. And I think that the Sword Stance sort of set is, much as this article claims, a very decent thing. Because Unburden is also a very good ability with held items like Berry Juice or Oran Berry. And it's a good, solid Mon if you can tank a hit, which in a lot of cases Trico can. But once again, it does fall victim to a lot of the better Pokemon are fire types. So you either run Acrobatics and risk just dying to fire types, or you run Rock Slide and you miss the ability to screw with grass types after your berry juice is drank. But even despite those sort of gripes I have about it, I think it's a solid A or B tier Pokemon. I mean, it can still do things. It's just a little bit poorly positioned in the way of sort of metagaming. B tier, sure. And now we're on to Gen 4 with Chimchar. And as a suicide lead, it's actually really, really good in this format. Because you can just sort of get in, kill a thing or two, fake out maybe as well. And after that, you're pretty much just trying to set up and die. Which, while Stealth Rock is probably a good thing, especially considering not many other starters get Stealth Rock. So, this whole, without the longevity speed, etc., that doesn't exactly bring a nick against Chimchar, because, to my knowledge, there aren't any rock setters in this sort of mini format. But fake out, stealth rock, try to get some damage in, I think is a pretty good plan for Chimchar. And I'm going to give that B tier as well. A lot of Pokemon are just going to sort of clash with each other in terms of how good they are. Next we have Turtwig, the Gen 4 grass type. And this is another interesting defensive, or it's sort of the parallel to Chimchar, whereas Chimchar is a more offensive Stealth Rock user, Turtwig is a more defensive Stealth Rock user. While you could just sort of stall for time with Synthesis or Bullet, or just sort of generally chipping away, Turtwig, if you're trying to go more defensive, is a really good option, and it carves out a huge niche for itself because it's the only grass type that can Stealth Rock. It's got some nice natural bulk, first of all, like 64 defense and 55 special defense is pretty nice, especially that defense. And on top of that, it gets Synthesis, which is a really good healing move. And for that, I think I'm going to give it A tier, because it has a niche, 1, and 2, it's just a good Mon, even if there were other Pokemon that could set rocks. And last but not least for Gen 4, we have Piplup, as soon as this loads. Which, it has Defiant, although I'm not sure if that's exactly what you want in a Piplup here. If you wanted to go more offensive, you could do that, but I think it is better as a utility Mon. Once again, getting access to Stealth Rock. All 4 Gen 4 Pokemon are perfectly fine rock setters, but it also gets Defog, so counters the other 2 Gen 4 rock setters. And in addition, it's basically a hard counter to the rock setters in this format, aka the other 2 Gen 4 Pokemon. And I think that's a pretty good niche. While its main role is just take out other rock setters, which, granted, not exciting, but still a decent niche for itself. And for that, I'll give it B tier, sure. And on to Gen 5, we have Tepig. Here's where we get a little bit of a sort of especially glassy cannon. And Thick Fat is definitely good as an ability. It pretty much negates any attempts to get it from a fellow fire type. But Flare Blitz, recoil. Head Smash, recoil. Wild Charge, recoil. There's a lot of recoil going on in this Pokemon. So it is definitely a little bit more of a get in, hit hard, die hard. Which is not the worst way to go as far as attacks go, but then again, I'd rather have a Pokemon that could both attack and live to tell the tale after a few moves. So I think I'm going to give it C tier. Next we have Oshawott. And Oshawott is, I guess, pretty okay. It's one of the only physical Pokemon in this format that are water types, so fire types with bad defense, such as pretty much all of them, because except for, I think, Fennekin. Fennekin's got some physical bulk. It basically just screws with all the fire types, even more than a water type normally would. And it also gets grass types with Aerial Ace, which is definitely another cool thing. And I think as a physical attacker, I don't think there's really a whole lot that can be better than Oshawott. While it isn't the best Pokemon in regular old Little Cup where lots of good water types exist, we're sort of at a deficit of that here. And with the addition of Swords Dance and some good coverage, I think Oshawott deserves our first place in A+. Well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe there are more water and grass types in high tier than I thought. And next, we have Snivy, who, contrary, is definitely a good ability, especially once you get in Leaf Storm as its move, which is just insane. It's 130 base power, and it provides a boost. That's just insane. It is fantastic as a sweeper. And it also gets defog or some other utility moves too, so it's not just limited to go fast, hit hard. It also has some utility, but go fast, hit hard is generally the plan with Snivy, and it is a very good plan. Once again, A+ tier. Actually, maybe even S tier, because Leaf Storm's a hell of a drug. We're on to Gen 6 now with Fennekin. Now, Magician is, I guess, okay as an ability, but it does get some bulk problems. Its special defense is fine, but its regular defense is not that great. So against things such as, say, Oshawa, it just tanks. However, it does have Magician option. It's Magician plus Solar Beam plus Power Herb. It is a technically okay idea, but like if you Solar Beam and then after the Solar Beam you steal whatever thing your opponent has, it's not the worst, but it's also not exactly great. Solar Beam is a good move, and it can be a little cool thing you can do, but Fennekin doesn't have a whole lot, I feel like, in this sort of starter LC thing, which, once again, is extremely disappointing, because I would have loved to have a format where I could play Fennekin. It's a lovely Pokemon. We love Fennekin, but just not that good. Alright, on Jaspin, who is actually probably one of the better offensive Pokemon with a little bit of bulk. Or physical bulk, anyway. Special bulk is kinda garbo. But it does have a lot of utility moves, think spikes, think synthesis. So, and Seed Bomb, once again, a pretty decent grass move. And Bulletproof makes it immune to a lot of sort of other Seed Bombs and other similar things, so other grass-type attackers don't have a lot to do if Jaspin comes out besides switch out. And that is an okay niche, but at the same time, it doesn't do a whole lot except screw with grass types and maybe take out a water type. Because a lot of these competitive sets would probably be using Seed Bomb and other similar grass moves. Because they're just good. But it does have that niche, so for that reason I'll give it B tier, sure. On to Frokey, who, honestly, I'm not sure. I mean, Protean gives it something, so depends on what its move pool's like. Hydro Pump, obviously a very strong water move. Ice Beam. With Protean Stab, very good. U-Turn is basically just to get out if you see a grass type. And other than that, you just play some sort of hidden power, and pretty good, actually. It's not, I don't think it's S tier, but it definitely has a top tier sort of strategy of just hit a bunch of different Pokemon that are weak to different things with Stab. And for that, I'm gonna give it A tier. It's a very solid Pokemon. And last but not least, we have the Gen 7 starters, who I think might take up the high tiers. Just pretty much all of them, because Litten has Intimidate, and just sort of getting in, intimidating, getting out is already serviceable. Getting in, faking out, getting out, also a very good option. And if you do want to stay in, you have Flare Blitz, or Will-O-Wisp, or something you can use to cause some more havoc while you're in. However, at the same time, its stats aside from attacking stats are kind of bad. So it's very, very frail, even if you do manage to do something with it. So another one of a glass cannon type thing. However, I do think that that's at least worthy of A+. No, probably more like A. Because Oshawott is definitely better than Litten, in my opinion. And second to last, we have Rowlet. Grass flying, so once again, has something against grass types if you need it, or stab against grass types. But sadly, its speed sucks. Its HP's okay, not gonna lie, but most of its stats are just not that good. They're subpar. But then again, if you do have a few spare turns to set up, say you burn something with Litten's Will-O-Wisp or who knows what, setting up, if you have room to set up, Swords Dance can be good, but once again, it's just slow and frail, so not that great a sweeper. I want to put it at B- tier, but there isn't a B- tier, so I'm just going to put it in C. And last but not least, since we're not covering the Gen 8s, because oh, frick, I accidentally closed that. And, wait, let's just look up Popplio, because we already have it. And last but not least, we have Popplio, who doesn't even have a moveset as far as Little Cup goes. So, we're just going to have to sort of figure this out on our own. Decent special attack, all the other stats are garbage, especially that speed. And fairy typing, or fairy moves aren't honestly all that great in a scene with only fire, grass, water types, save for a few dual types. And yeah, this Pokemon does not have that many good moves either that'll bring it into the forefront. So, for that reason, Popplio, I think, is our one and only E-tier Pokemon. So, there you have it. Snivy is, I think, one of the best Pokemon in the format, if not the best. Oshawott, also one of the best. But I think pretty much everything is viable except for Popplio. While Mudkip and Squirtle do have some issues, I think they're still viable. It's Popplio that you probably, if this were a format, shouldn't be using. But most of this is just speculation and opinion, since this format does not exist as of yet. So, with that in mind, I will sign off for now, and I will see you in the next one.